Hey, good morning, everybody. This is your 2-minute warning. Courtney and Justin are on the call right now. We'll kick it off at 9:30. So I'm really looking forward to this. Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. Already February 1st, 2023. Today I'm joined by Justin Safransky and Courtney Ines of NexBen, and they're going to be going over ICHRA, and they're going to describe all the details behind ICHRA, a new type of HRA addressing individuals for groups. And let's just scroll through a few housekeeping things. If you have a question, we want you to put it in the question box to the right. We are going to answer questions throughout the presentation because there's so much data and so much news with this presentation. So I want you to add these questions throughout the presentation. At various points, we will stop and answer your questions. And I've got everybody on mute, so nothing to worry there. And by all means, follow us on social media, subscribe to our weekly Monday Minute newsletter. It has all the recent data, including information about the upcoming Medicaid redetermination. And here's my partner, Eric Pouncey, who's also on the call. And there's our contact information. And as a Cornerstone broker, you have access to expert services from our agency services program that can help you with your business outside your scope. In planning for the future, we create a customized plan for you based on your specific needs to ensure that you, your business, and your family are covered. Contact us today about this. And 3 facets to this: autopilot, parachute, and flight plan, all there. Okay, here at Cornerstone. And from downloadable social media images to customizable flyers, Cornerstone's Marketing Hub has what you need to start managing your marketing in-house. And you can access the Marketing Hub through the Cornerstone resource with your username and password. Contact Jess Larkin. Her email is jlarkin@crnstone.com if you have any questions. So check us out. And let's toss it to Justin and Courtney, and Linda will be joining us. Has Linda joined us? She'll be joining us at some point. Can you guys hear
Linda's
me?
Here. Yeah,
I am on.
Okay, great. And Mary's joining us as well. Okay, fantastic. And can you guys see my screen? I'm going to toss it to Courtney, and she's going to take it away.
Great. Thank you so much.
Well, and just to want to jump in here.
Yeah.
if you wouldn't mind, everybody, in the in your dashboard, there's a handout for you to look at some point in the presentation. I want to call that out. And what's more, we're also going to do a poll real quick. So I'm tossing this to Courtney, and a lot of broker engagement today, a lot of feedback is what we want.
Yes, exactly. All right, my screen should be loading here in a second.
Yeah, I see it.
Perfect. All right, well, thank you very much for the warm welcome. All of the NexBen team is truly excited to be here and share all of this wonderful information with you. Please send your questions in at any time. I'll stop at various points throughout the presentation to answer your questions, because I want to make sure that we are getting you the information that is relevant to you, right, as brokers in the insurance industry. So I'll introduce myself again. Hello, I'm Courtney Anise, and I'm the lead trainer here at NexBen. So you may be lucky enough to see my face pretty often. I hope so anyway. I hope to be spending a lot of quality time with you all. And then we have Justin and Linda. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourselves as well?
Yeah, just real quickly, Justin Stefransky, I am the sales director at NexBen. Work collaboratively with Linda, as well as, of course, your team with Jeff and Eric and all ICHRA related business.
And I'm Linda Whitford. I'm actually the account executive who works with Cornerstone and all the brokers downstreaming. Any questions? Both Justin and I are always here to assist.
Perfect, perfect. And so before we even jump into the presentation, I want to start with a question and really think about for a moment, what was your average renewal rate for your book of business heading into 2023? You know, every year we have a renewal process and it looks a little bit different every year, but I have a feeling that there were some commonalities. So on your screen, you should see a poll, and just give us a broad estimate. You know, what was the average renewal looking like for your book of business in 2023? And Jeff, I think we'll leave that poll open for about 30 seconds.
Okay, great. We're getting a lot of votes.
Perfect. I'm very excited to see the responses.
It's funny because it's just going back and forth. There's like, you know, 1% is in the lead, then the next one. It's just fun to see that.
Oh yeah, you get to see the response rate in real time.
Yeah, I'll share that with everybody.
Perfect.
So we got about 2/3 of the people that have voted.
Yeah.
You know, let's give it about I don't know, 15 more seconds. There's a few more
sure.
coming
As
in.
long as those answers are still coming on in.
Okay. I wonder if I could.
And while we're waiting for those answers to come in, Jeff did say that there's a PDF in the handout section. That PDF is a copy of our presentation. So if you want to download that and either follow along or use it for future reference, that is a tool that is available to you. So I just want to make sure that you have that in your hands.
And if I might add, we also will send everybody a copy of this presentation in a YouTube format. We do this all the time, and we house it out on our website. So if you if you don't you're on the road and you want to check it out or something like that, there's another place you can access it. So we're pretty much done here. Can I share the results with you?
I would love to see them. Yes.
Let's stop the polling right now. And so at this stage, 10% is the winner. So 46 of the respondents said their renewal rate is 10% or greater. But 42% said that their renewal rate was just 7 to 9%, whereas 12% said that it was more like 4 to 6%.
Okay. Are
That's
you
not,
able to share those responses with us so we can see the results of the poll?
give it a try here. Okay. Let's just close it, maybe it'll pop up. So 41%, actually somebody jumped in and added their response. Now the lead is 79% is 48%. Okay, so
Wow.
nearly half only have a renewal rate of 7 to 9%.
Okay.
And we'll
Perfect.
finish out, and I'll share that in the follow-up. But at the end of the poll, 48% of the respondents said their renewal rate is only 7 to 9%. So.
And how many said 10 plus?
10 plus was 4% to 6%. So.
Okay. Okay.
Pretty large.
All right.
Contingent or beneath. Okay. Oh, 10% or greater. 10% or greater. My bad. So 41% of the respondents said their renewal rate was 10% or greater.
41% of respondents said 10% or greater.
Yeah.
All right. That is a lot, right? So we had 48% said that they had average renewal rates of 7 to 9%. 41% of our attendees today said the average renewal increase was 10% or greater. Now, if you think about that, that happens every year, right? That every year there's a renewal rate increase. You know exactly when it's going to happen. You get those either notifications from the carrier directly or your clients reach out to you, and no one wants to see that kind of consistent rate increase, right? Year after year, dealing with that budgetary constraint. And unfortunately, what we're seeing in the trends is the rate increase itself is increasing, right? So what used to be a normal, 4 to 6% increase is now we're seeing that 7 to 9, that 10+% increase. And so really the question becomes, how are you going to help your clients control their healthcare spending? What tools do you have in your pocket to help overcome some of that financial constraint of these ever increasing insurance premiums? So that's what I want to talk to you about today, the NexBen solution. And we're going to reference the results of this poll throughout our time together today. And we're going to continue to explore that idea of controlling costs for your clients and help them build a healthcare plan that is scalable, that they can fiscally control, right? So first, we'll do a little bit of conversation about who is NexBen. Some of you may be familiar with NexBen. You might have worked with us in the past. We might be a new face to some of our attendees today. We'll talk about why individual coverage HRAs and why now. What is going on in the market that makes an individual coverage HRA such a valuable resource? We're going to get into some pretty good detail about how an ICHRA works, kind of the eligibility, contribution criteria, maybe some types of employer groups that we have that may benefit from an ICHRA. And then if we have time, and I want to make sure we get through your questions, so we may have to hopefully do another session, but if we have time, we'll get into the NexBen solution itself, where we can go through the NexBen platform and show you how the tool works. So as was stated, any questions, anytime, go ahead and send those into the chat and we'll make sure to get those covered.
I could just jump in real quick. I just want to clarify things on the screen. Courtney is speaking, and her colleague Linda, unfortunately it's labeled as Courtney, but Linda Whitford, she's also on the team, and we use Linda very much. So thanks.
Yeah. Well, we basically could be twins too. So.
Right.
All right. So who is NexBen? We are a financial technology company that really helps facilitate the employer plan administration. And the way we're able to do that is by connecting all of the carriers, right? So we work with brokers like yourself, we work with employers and employees, and our goal in combination with you as the broker and all the other players in the market is to allow people to gain financial control and increase their freedom of choice by offering a simple, effective, and accessible payment solution, right? And so when you have a payment solution, the individuals, they can be more involved in their healthcare spending. They can really have some buy-in into what it is that their health insurance is doing for them. So another way to look at it is we're just connecting that fractured benefits landscape with that end-to-end fintech solution. And we're doing so with our partners in the industry and our platform that really allows the broker, employer, and employee to have that end-to-end experience. So that's just a little bit about who we are. And I want to talk to you now about what an individual coverage ICHRA can do for you and why it's so important that we talk about this now in the market. There was a survey by Willis Towers Watson, and that survey really brought to light that employers just simply cannot keep up with the rising costs of health insurance. 67% of employers surveyed plan to prioritize controlling their rising healthcare costs over the next 3 years. 7 out of 10 employers surveyed expect moderate to significant increases over the next 3 years. They already know it's coming because it's what they've already experienced, right? We just took a look at 2023, and we know that a significant amount of employers are experiencing a 10+% increase. And 54%, or over half of respondents, expect that this year they're going to be over budget on their healthcare spending this year, right? And so they're already stretched over their budgetary constraints. So that's what's really in it for the employer, right? That's some of the difficulties that they're experiencing right now. And the same is happening with the employee, right? Since 2011, employee premiums have increased 47% more than wages and 2.5 times faster than inflation. So what that means is not only is the employer struggling to offer coverage that meets their employees' needs, but the employee is struggling to find a policy that covers and contributes what they are really looking for out of their health care, right? And so we have created this ecosystem that's just not working. And we know, brokers, that your goal is to help ensure that these employers and these employees have the coverage that they need. And we want to tell you that there is a potential solution for these employers. And there is something that you can do to tangibly help the pains that these two audiences are experiencing. And that is a standard coverage ICHRA. And all that does is it allows the employer to set a contribution, and it can be as little or as much as they want. So we'll talk strategy in a little bit about how you could work that out with different employer groups. But what that does is it allows the employer to set a consistent budget. So now the employer knows every month I'm going to be responsible for contributing no more than $300 to every eligible employee, right? So if they set that budget, it's consistent. So you're minimizing the employer risk, allowing them to have that defined contribution amount. Simultaneously, because these are individual policies, the employee can select any policy that's available to them based on their zip code. So you have employees who may have had one or two plan options, and they kind of felt like they were picking the best of a worst case scenario. They can have buy-in, and now they can say, you know what, I take a lot of medications. I really need to make sure that I have prescription drug coverage. Or I'm pretty healthy, right? I go to the doctor for my annual physical, and that's about it. So I could probably have a higher deductible plan, right? And really figure out what works for them. Now, there are some potential downsides to a standard or a traditional ICHRA benefit. And we know that because in that traditional model of an ICHRA, the employer says, I'm going to contribute this money to you, but it has to be reimbursed, right? So the employees are now paying the entire monthly premium upfront and waiting for their employer to reimburse. Now, we just talked about how not only are the employer's premiums increasing, but the employees' premiums are increasing as well. And now we're asking them to wait to be reimbursed. And that is adding to this model that is just not working. And now we're asking the employer, hey, you know what, you have to figure out that reimbursement model. You know, I'm sure what you wanted to add to your plate was more administrative tasks, right? So obviously that's not working. And then a third pain point for a traditional ICHRA is, although we are providing the employees multiple plans and multiple opportunities, they are now often left to go it alone, right? They have to figure out, well, how am I going to enroll in this policy? What do you mean I have 30 different plan options available to me? How do I select the best plan? How do I know what fits my needs? And oftentimes they don't have that support, right? And so that's where the ecosystem comes in of the NexBen solution, is we are building this ecosystem so that all of the players in the market are working together. And I want to start with you as the broker, right? And you see distribution partner on this slide, but really you are the person that manages the relationship with the employer group or with the client, right? And as you do today, it would be consulting with the client and figuring out what are their needs? What are they trying to accomplish with their health benefits? Do they have a strict budget that they need to attend to? Or do they have participation issues? You know, what's going on in their current state? And how can an ICHRA solve for some of those issues? Once the employer says, yes, I can see how a NexBen ICHRA would help solve some of my budgetary constraints, they get set up on their platform. Then they can open and monitor the enrollment process of their employees. And we're going to see this in more detail, but there's no reimbursement process with the NexBen solution. Those monthly premiums are paid with one click of a button. All right, so we've just eliminated all of that administrative work on the employer. Now, the employee, they might want the assistance of an enrollment partner to help them make their policy
Courtney,
selection.
can I jump in here real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Courtney, can I jump in here? The network connection is kind of slow, so if you kill the webcams, I think we'll get our bandwidth back.
I'm gonna stop my
I'll go ahead
webcam
and
then.
click that
Sorry
button.
about
That's
that.
better. Okay. All right. No worries. That's much better. Much better.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So with your expertise as a broker, you could choose to be the enrollment partner and assist those individual employees through the policy selection process. Or you can partner with Cornerstone and they can help you complete these enrollments, right? It's up to you on how you want to manage that business. And the employee will get that support and help that they need. So the unique piece for the employee is that they are going to receive a NexBen account and routing number. And when they go to make a policy selection, they use that account and routing number. That means they have immediate access to their employer's contribution. There is no need to be reimbursed, right? Because any remainder, if they select a policy that is above their employer's contribution, any remainder can be payroll deducted, right? So there's no reimbursement process with this solution. And what you're going to see is that we facilitate that payment from the employer to the carrier. So the carrier is going to receive that employer premium via ACH. So I want to break down that payment process for you. Again, the employers, they're going to define their monthly contribution. The employee will make a policy selection and use their NexBen account and routing number. We are going to receive the employee data. What policy did the employee select and how much is their premium? The employer will review that information, and with one click, they can approve that monthly consolidated bill. So if there's 10 carriers, they only have to click Pay Now once. Then what we'll be doing is directing that premium payment to each carrier based on the individual policy selections. Now, Jeff, before we jump into how the ICHRA works, do we have any questions at this time?
Absolutely. I've got a couple questions. Mickey asks, what is the minimum group size and what is the monthly fee?
That is a great question. And so there is no minimum group size. So an ICHRA works for an employer group of any size. And when we get to kind of the roles and responsibilities, we'll talk in detail about the costing, but there is a $30 administrative fee, and that is a per subscriber per month.
Okay.
So we'll get into more detail on that. Yeah.
And there's an additional question, and Robin asks, does NexBen work in Kentucky with Connect? And Connect is a state-based marketplace.
So yeah, NexBen can support business in any state. So what we do is facilitate the payment. So if the broker can, the broker would still assist with the enrollment on the state-based exchange.
Great.
Yep. Great questions. And I'm sorry, Linda and Justin, if you have anything to add, please feel free to do so as well.
One additional question to follow up is the $30 per member, is it a per month or a per year charge?
Oh, sorry, it's $30 per subscriber per month. Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, on the fee, does Justin speak on the fee? It is a fixed $30 per subscriber per month. There is not a setup fee, nor does that admin fee vary based on, or is a variable admin fee based on group size at all. It is a fixed $30 fee regardless of group size. And going back to NexBen, we do service all 50 states. We are agnostic when it comes to whatever marketplace you do your shopping, whether it's a state or federal exchange. Again, we are really the bank and Ben admin system behind it. So we give you freedom of choice.
Yep. All right. So let's talk about how an ICHRA works. And I think this is going to shed some more light on some of the questions that were asked. First, what happens is ICHRAs allow an employer to structure their contribution and eligibility criteria using 11 employee classes. And one thing you're going to see here that's unique is that part-time employees, seasonal employees, those are eligible classes. So now you have employees that have never before been eligible to participate in an employer-sponsored benefit able to do so, right? The employer can decide, yes, I want my seasonal employees to be eligible to participate in the ICHRA. Just a couple of rules to make sure that the offerings do not discriminate. The first being employers must offer the same amount of reimbursement to all employees in a class. Employers cannot offer an ICHRA to an employee who is also offered a group health plan. And an ICHRA may be offered to one class, such as your part-time workers, and a group health plan to another, such as your full-time workers. So let's think about an example here. Let's say that I'm an employer and I want to offer $300 per month to my full-time employees, and I want to offer $100 a month to my part-time and seasonal employees, right? Everyone who is full-time will get $300. Anyone who's part-time and seasonal will get $100, right? We have to make sure it's equal across the employee class. Now, should the employer choose to keep a group health plan to one class of employees and move a separate class of employees to an ICHRA, we do need to make sure that there are some class size guidelines followed if they're using one of the 5 classes shown on the screen here. In that instance, we need to make sure that the classes are larger than 10 employees for an employer with 100 employees, 10% of the total number of employees for an employer with 100 to 200 employees, and 20 employees for an employer with more than 200 employees. In addition, through a new hire rule, employers can offer new employees an ICHRA while grandfathering existing employees into a traditional group health plan. One thing I want to offer as well is that these ICHRA policies are portable. So what that means is if you are offering these policies to a seasonal class, once their employment ends, the employee can keep their policy minus any employer contribution. So now there's no disruption of coverage for that seasonal employee. So here's some examples of how an employer group may choose to structure their classes. Let's say it's a golf course, right? And they have that high number of seasonal employees. So they may choose to keep a traditional group health plan for their full-time employees and offer the ICHRA for their seasonal employees, right? We might also use rating area as one of the class structures. So let's say it's a consulting firm and they're headquartered in California, but they have a location in Washington, right? So they might keep their employees in California on the traditional group health plan, and they might move the employees in Washington to an ICHRA. So it's really customizable to fit that employer's needs. Now, there are some eligibility requirements, and this gets into Medicare. So all of those who deal heavily with Medicare, this is time for you to listen up. Specifically, Medicare is an eligible reimbursable product with an ICHRA. So if the employee has a current Medicare plan, the Medicare Supplement, Medicare Advantage, or Medicare Part D plan may be eligible to be reimbursed through the ICHRA, right? As well as Part B premium and Part A premium if applicable. But you may have noticed that there was no classification of Medicare eligible employees. So you cannot segment out your Medicare eligible employees, but they are eligible to participate in the ICHRA if the employer chooses that the Medicare expenses are reimbursable under the ICHRA. Now, because the ICHRA itself is an employer group plan, that means that it is generally subject to COBRA and ERISA compliance. But because the ICHRA is a reimbursement or a promise to pay and not the actual health insurance coverage, Medicare secondary payer rules do not apply. In addition, Part D notices do not apply. So there's no need to facilitate those as well. Before we move into contribution strategies, did we have any questions about structuring classifications or Medicare compliance?
We had quite a few questions that came over. Okay.
All right.
I love this engagement. So first off, question is, do we continue to own the accounts? In other words, the group accounts, do they continue to own the accounts?
That is, and we're going to talk about this in just a moment, but how you structure your business is completely up to you. So if you want to maintain that broker of record status and be responsible for those enrollments of the individual policies, that is something that you can choose. However, you can also choose to set a advisory fee, right? And so that's, sorry, I'm skipping ahead of the game, but ultimately it's up to you. Yep.
Yeah, and by and large, yes, you would own the accounts. So, and now another question, I want to clarify, the group health plan is only health, or does it also include a group offering such as dental or vision, or et cetera? I had the impression that an employer cannot offer an ICHRA if they have other group offerings in place.
The employer can choose to offer group ancillary products like dental and vision and offer the ICHRA for their health benefits. Yep.
Okay, great. Next question, can the individual transition to a tax credited plan as a seasonal employee?
Yes. And so that gets into some of the strategy around contribution structure that we're gonna get into next. Yep.
Okay. Another question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I cut out here. What was the next question?
Starting a new seasonal job, an SEP, a special period for an ACA.
So
is starting a new seasonal job, an SEP for an ACA plan.
Yes.
So I assume
more
coming into a seasonal job with an ICHRA, so that is an SCP. So the next question, will this webinar be available? Absolutely. It's going to be out on our website. What's more, everybody has the handout, the presentation handout, so it became late. And just a follow-up question, how about the ownership of the individual that buys an ACA plan? I think we can answer that too. That's yes. So the client owns that ACA plan.
Yes, that is correct.
Absolutely. Okay. We're good for now. Okay.
All right. Great question. So contribution structure. There are many strategies you and the employer could collaborate on to structure the contribution criteria. I mentioned earlier that there's no minimum contribution amount. And so speaking specifically about small groups here, those that are fewer than 50 enrolled, or fewer 50 employees, excuse me, they are not subject to ACA tax penalties if their plans do not meet contribution criteria for affordability, right? So if you think about those small groups and an employer that's really struggling to meet their budgetary constraints, one strategic approach that small employer might take is to purposefully make the ICHRA offering unaffordable. Now, what that would allow the employee to do is go to the marketplace and see if they qualify for a subsidy. You cannot double dip. So the employee would have to waive their ICHRA coverage and, if eligible, take that marketplace subsidy. So that's just one strategy, right? And obviously that could be up to the employer's discretion. But what that allows the employer to do is, if they are confident that their plan is not going to meet affordability and confident that their employees are most likely going to qualify for a subsidy. It allows those employees to still have access to an affordable healthcare plan. Otherwise, just keep in mind, right, individual marketplace plans for older people typically cost more. When we look at those age-banded rates, the younger you are, the lower the rate is. And that's why the ICHRA regulations allow up to a 1-to-3 ratio for the contribution structure from the youngest to the oldest employee. And so with that, you might see the youngest employee may have $100 per month and the oldest employee $300 per month, right? The only caveat here is it is up to 1-to-3. It cannot exceed 1-to-3. And contribution to Medicare eligible employees cannot be any higher than the contribution for a 64-year-old. So you need to make sure that it's being kept equitable. So a few examples of contribution strategies that you're going to see on the NexBen platform. Employee only, that's, the employer says, I want to contribute $300 to every eligible employee. We have employee only age banding. So then the employer can create those tiers using that 1-to-3 ratio to contribute to the employee based on age. There are employee tiers. So if we have I'm going to go with these both, an employee by relationship. So the employee tiers is saying, I'm going to give X amount of dollars to the employee, spouse, and dependents, right? So now you can create that tiering structure. And that's by relationship, I apologize. And the tier would be if there were the employee, employee plus spouse, employee plus child, employee plus dependents in a family. So now you're creating tiers of contribution, because as you know, the larger the contract, the more likely it is for the premiums to increase. So that's kind of the 4 contribution strategies that you're going to see on the NexBen platform. When we go through the platform, I'll show you those in action. Now, one thing I want to keep in mind here is that ICHRAs are a calendar year product. So what that means is an employer group can move to an ICHRA at any time. And moving to that ICHRA would open an SEP for the employees to elect the individual policies. However, let's say they choose to join with an April 1st effective date. They're going to have a shortened plan year to align those renewals to January 1st. And then at the renewal, the employers would have the opportunity to adjust their contribution, and the employee would have the opportunity to modify their policy selection, or if it's still available, they can certainly keep their existing policy as well. And another item on the timeline, so keep in mind that these are individual policies that the employees themselves are electing. So we need to keep in mind those ACA mandates. So employees must make a coverage selection and enroll by the 15th of the month prior to the plan effective date. So for example, if the coverage is effective January 1st, the employees must be enrolled in the policy by December 15th. As with most things in life, the sooner they get enrolled, the better. So when the employer group is setting that open enrollment timeframe, it's really important that they keep these timelines in mind. All right, and here, general idea of groups that may fit with an ICHRA. We know that an ICHRA is not going to be the ideal solution for every employer group, but because of the flexibility in plan design, who is eligible to participate and how the contribution can be structured, we find that a vast majority of employer groups can benefit from an ICHRA. And we're seeing, such as those public sector groups, those fire departments, the municipalities, different associations, co-ops, and franchises, as well as groups in industries that have a lot of part-time and seasonal employees, hospitality, entertainment, and home health care. And then those large groups that may have hires, claims, and rates, they may be self-funded right now, and one catastrophic event can throw off their whole budget, as well as some of those participation issues. Maybe their plan is not meeting affordability, so they are getting assessed those shared responsibility payments, and it's really eating into their budget, right? An ICHRA can assist all of any group in any of those situations. All right, so let's do a little bit of a recap of some of the key points that we covered in the How ICHRA Works section. So first of all, there's no minimum or maximum contribution allowance requirements. You and the employer group work together to create a strategy that best fits their needs. With that contribution, there's no carryover month to month, year to year. Any contribution not used is retained by the employer. Now, you can offer different contribution allowances to different classes of employees. And NexBen's ICHRA solution is going to reimburse for that insurance premium. All right. Jeff, what questions can I answer?
Okay, great. More questions flowing in. Please put your questions in the question box and ask the experts. Let's get all the details. So the next question is just clarification on the issue of unemployment. If a person is not employed with no health coverage, but they begin a job at an employer that has an ICHRA in place, is that an SEP on the ACA plan?
If the employer, if they are in an eligible class of employees, yes. So if the employer says, I'm going to offer an ICHRA to all of my part-time employees, the new hire is a part-time employee, therefore eligible to participate in the ICHRA and would have an SEP to join. Yep.
Great. Okay. Is the 1-to-3 ratio still a rule if you choose to use employee class instead of an employee age?
Yes. So let's say, and you can do this per classification. So let's take an example. I'm going to offer my part-time employees up to $300 using the age banded strategy. I'm going to offer my full-time, my full-time employees up to $600 using the age banded strategy.
Okay.
So you, as long as you keep it across class lines, you can use different strategies per employer class.
Okay. Next question, can you say again when an employee would still be eligible for a subsidy in the marketplace?
Yeah, I can cover that again. So if the employee is eligible for an ICHRA, but it is determined that their employer's ICHRA offering does not meet affordability, the employee could choose to waive the ICHRA offering and go on the marketplace to see if they qualify for a tax credit.
Okay. And finally, the last question, who handles the filings? It's a great question.
Could you elaborate on that question a little bit more?
I believe who handles, the document filings, the filings for the plan documents for the ICHRA.
Oh,
Courtney,
Clifton
maybe the
or Justin?
1094, 1095s,
Yeah.
perhaps, in addition to SPDs. So next, I can jump in. SPDs, the summary plan descriptions, is a contract that NexBen will be facilitating to the employers a couple months after the group's effective date to show and demonstrate that the employer is offering a group-sponsored program. However, the 1094, 1095 filings, we will provide the data outlining when employees are covered per month or waived, but we do not, in fact, do the filings. That is something that we put in the hands of the brokers and the employers to be responsible for the filings itself.
Okay. And please feel free to follow up on that. And then finally, if an employer is an ALE, and their contribution is considered unaffordable, or the ACA unaffordability fees come into play.
Yes, so let's think about that for a little bit. Let's say I am an applicable large employer and my ICHRA offering is deemed unaffordable for the employee. There is a calculation that happens to determine if the employer would be assessed a shared responsibility payment. But if it is found that their contribution does not meet affordability, then yes, they would be assessed that shared responsibility payment. And we have on our resources hub, I'll go ahead and make sure you get this link, an on-demand video that specifically goes through affordability testing and how it can be determined if the employer's offering does or does not meet that requirement. So I'll make sure to share that resource.
Okay. Okay, great. Just a few more minutes here.
Yeah. So I do want to go through one last section, and obviously we're not going to have time to get into the platform itself. So we'll make sure to get another session on schedule so we can show you the NexBen platform in action. But I do want to talk to you a little bit about kind of the roles and responsibilities. Who does what and how is that going to work? So here's a nice side-by-side comparison of every step of the process and who is kind of responsible for what. But to get more down to the nitty-gritty of what the broker is responsible for, it's really the things that you already do today, right? Helping your employer groups set their contribution strategy, navigate any underwriting questions, completing their employer application, managing the open enrollment, right? How do I know what is the correct length of time to keep my enrollment open for my employees? Educating the employer group on their responsibilities within the ICHRA, right? Understanding that, yes, an ICHRA is still an employer-sponsored plan, right? There are still ERISA requirements, COBRA requirements, etc., that the employer needs to abide by. And so they're going to rely on your expertise to help them with that knowledge. Now, when we talk about that, the enrollments themselves, right? And making sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me okay?
If you could repeat that, that'd be great. We lost the sound temporarily.
Okay.
That second bullet point.
Okay, sure. Yes. Educating the employer group on their responsibilities within an ICHRA, right? So these are still employer-sponsored plans. So there's still going to be ERISA requirements, COBRA requirements, things that they're going to rely on your expertise to help them navigate, right? So that's the role. It's really important that the broker plays in the ICHRA administration.
Great. And
okay. Oh,
and
go ahead.
Don't try to be an absolute master with NexBen. And we're going to be going over the platform. So there's a lot to digest. We have more questions coming in. And
great. All right. Well, And I apologize for the technical issues that we're experiencing today. And so I just want to cover 2 more slides, and then we're going to answer all of your questions. So one question that I'm sure you have is, how do I control my compensation? And so we talked earlier that the employee, or excuse me, the employer will set their contribution, and they will be
Yep.
responsible for paying a $30 per subscriber per month administrative fee. Now, you as the broker have the opportunity to charge your clients an advisory fee for that service and expertise that you provide the employer group. And that is also on a per subscriber per month basis. So depending on the size of the group, the needs of the group, you can change that advisory fee based on the employer group. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do the billing for that advisory fee. So we're going to provide the billing and collection of the broker advisory fee from the employer groups and pay that collected advisory fee back to the broker. So really streamline that advisory fee process. All right, so we covered a lot of ground here, right? We talked about who NexBen is and why ICHRA now. And to think back to that poll that we launched at the beginning of our time today, it was that your employer groups are facing unsustainable increases year after year. And what we can do to help you is connect that entire ecosystem so you don't have to go it alone. You have access to those enrollment partners or Cornerstone to help you facilitate that enrollment. We're going to help facilitate that payment through our NexBen platform that we'll take a look at our next meeting, which will really be as easy as sell, serve, renew. So before we jump into questions, I want to ask you to do one thing, and that is to take the Cornerstone Challenge, right? We want you to think of one lead. Maybe it was that a group that was in your book of business that faced the highest percentage increase for 2023. Maybe it's a new lead that you have not yet interacted with, but you think, oh, an ICHRA could be a great fit for them. They could already be in your book of business. But let's just test the waters, right? See if there is some truth serum here and contact Linda to talk it through. Hey, I have this employer group. Could they be a good fit? So Linda and Justin are here to help facilitate those conversations. Give us a call. We want to have those conversations with you. All right, sorry, let's take an answer for those questions.
And I do apologize again for jumping, but 99% of what she said was heard, so no worries. And let's get to a few questions. Does it have to be an affordability issue, or can the employee just decline the ICHRA and go with the subsidy?
I hear your question, and so the question becomes, well, does it have to be unaffordable, or can I just go on marketplace? And the answer is, as long as you waive the ICHRA coverage, right? You just cannot double dip.
Right. Right. Next question. Okay. Somebody's providing feedback on the tech issues that we were having, and this participant was able to hear Courtney the whole time, so that's great. I'm glad to hear that.
Great.
It was more or less on my end, and hopefully that was the experience from everybody else too. But can an employee still receive the CSR, cost sharing reduction, if they choose the ICHRA over an ACA subsidy?
I guess I would ask a follow-up question. I'm sorry.
I don't believe so. The CSR is a function of the ACA subsidy.
Yeah, yep, that was my understanding as well.
Yeah. So no, you won't be able to do that. It's again, either or. And next question. Very good questions. They keep flowing in too, and we'll wrap things up in a little bit. But is the $30 PEPM fee, is NexBen still competitive with other ICHRA providers? I feel like the last one I looked at was $10 PEPM with a one-time setup fee of $60.
Yeah, and that's a great call out. And I think, as Justin said earlier, there is no setup fee for the NexBen ICHRA. So it is that $30 per subscriber per month, but there's no other hidden fees or other extra costs to the employer group. So yes, we have found that that pricing is still competitive in the market.
Okay. More questions flowing in. Sorry about that, but we're gonna.
No, I'd love to answer them if we have the time. I would love to do it.
Okay, so I know it's already 10:30, but we'll forge ahead here. $30 per subscriber per month. Is that charged to just the employee or each family member, or if there are dependents?
It is just based on the subscriber. So they could have multiple people on their contract, but it's $30 per subscriber per month.
Okay. Are there any issues if a group offers an ICHRA with a regular ICHRA for deductible reimbursements?
I would like Linda or Justin to chime in on that one. I'm not sure I've ever experienced that.
Yeah, there's no restrictions there. You can have, for example, like a VIBA, which is an HRA account used to subsidize the deductible. You can still have an ICHRA. The ICHRA is to offset the premium perspective. It has nothing to do with the medical qualifying expenses from the NexBen solution. So yes, you can offer a VIBA or some sort of HRA for the deductible offset.
Got it. Okay. Fantastic, everybody. Again, we'll be doing another one of these in the near future, the very near future, to go over the platform and what more. So we'll be sending out a copy of the presentation in a YouTube format. It'll be out on our website as well. What's more, everybody should receive the PDF of the presentation in this format already. So any last questions, guys? Any last comments, I should say? Any last comments?
I would just like to reiterate, when we did that poll in the beginning of our time together today, 41% said that on average, that was a 10% or greater increase, right? And we know that that is not sustainable. And so if we have a potential solution for your employer groups to help them control the healthcare costs that are already over their budget and stretching their budget, then it is, our responsibility to bring that solution to them. So as I mentioned, one lead. If you have one lead in your book of business that you think could benefit from an ICHRA, I encourage you to connect with Linda and have that conversation with her.
With that, we'll conclude the presentation. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.